Today we are talking about Andrew Jackson's message to Congress on Indian removal. He made a proposal for Indians to be relocated to given tracts for the government so the states could afford to expand. Jackson wrote this proposal in 1830 and gave it to Congress to try and get them to agree to his terms and conditions. One argument that Jackson used was that the removal of Indians was for the well-being of America. This can be seen in a quote from Jackson. It puts an end to all possible danger of collision between the authorities of the general and state governments on account of the Indians. Jackson also argues with logic, which can be seen in the quote, "The present policy of the government is but a continuation of the same progressive change by a milder process." What he means by this is the government already has this action set in a process, but is working to speed things up. From what can be taken from President Jackson's speech, it is clear to see that the Indians and Americans had violence between them at the time. But President Jackson had a vision for America in the future, a vision that involved freedom and more expansion. He hoped for the population to spread from Tennessee to Louisiana. He felt that moving Indians out of the states would make it easier for the states to expand at a more justifiable pace. To further support what he wrote, President Jackson could have involved more specific examples of the frustrations between the Americans and the Indians. Also, President Jackson's idea was completely prejudiced against the Indians. He made it seem ethically just to forcefully remove the Indians. This speech brought forth the idea of stealing land from the Indians and giving it to the Americans. He also put the Indians in an either-or situation. This involved that the Indians would either relocate or they would face, in President Jackson's words, utter annihilation. One prejudice that can be seen is when President Jackson attacks Indians by degrading them and calling them wandering savages. This is a prime form of prejudice. Maybe President Jackson thought that if he degraded the demeanor of the Indians, then Congress would agree with him. After giving a full argument with the arguments of logic and ethics and self-importance, Jackson made a compelling argument to Congress for the Indian removal, and I therefore think it was successful.